Welcome to Cellmates.
Welcome to Cellmates.
Well, Dick Ward.
Hey, Kate Phillips.
It's so exciting to be here with you as we take two animated movies, like our podcast does.
Yeah.
Compare, contrast, and generally throw a Venn diagram over them.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Often, these movies are Disney.
But not always.
Often they are musicals.
But not always.
Often they are good.
But not always.
And Dick, it's so nice to be here in this very festive atmosphere.
Yeah, it really is.
We've really decked out the recording studio.
Yes, our recording studio that has couches and the bed that we sleep in it.
Yeah, I mean, you could call it an apartment, but
I mean, we live here, but only for the podcast.
Only for the recording.
We moved into the studio. That's what happened.
Sure. We got some like light strings all around the place.
We got some penguins.
Yeah, lots of penguins.
Oh.
A tree. A fake tree.
Yeah. Well.
So, Dick, happy holidays.
Hey, same.
Yeah.
Right back at you.
Well, Dick, on this festive day, what is the drink that you are drinking?
What am I drinking? I am drinking a beer. It is brownish, like a darkish brown.
Thank you for visually describing it for the listening audience.
Well, it could be golden.
Oh, well.
Or it could be like a very dark brown, but it's a brownish brown. It is Delirium Noel. It is kind of festive-y spiced, sort of.
It's the same as the regular Delirium, but festive.
Yeah.
Right?
It's fine.
The elephant's got a Santa hat on it on the bottle. Is that correct?
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, this beer is fine. The bottle is really nice, though.
It's really good looking.
It's a really good bottle.
It's so festive.
Oh, man. That's kind of a metaphor.
And you might...
for one of the movies we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, well... and you might say that the Delirium would kind of be like a weird subversion of a beer, but Noel, the holiday version. I don't know. Dick, what... If you were going to mention a movie that is like, I don't know, like holiday themed, but like a little bit twisted.
Ooh.
What movie would come to mind?
Well, Gremlins.
Well, it's
Gremlins
too bad
would
we
come to
do
mind.
two animated feature films.
If I was picking an animated movie that was like Christmas, but like subverted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably something that comes from the twisted mind of Tim Burton.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like Edward Scissorhands?
Like Edward Snowden hands.
What a great Christmas movie, but still not animated.
Oh.
Let's try again.
The Grinch Before Christmas.
The Grinch Before. That's kind of this movie.
That's kind of.
If you had to say a second movie.
I would say The Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Part 2.
Klaus.
Yeah. No, yeah. The movies we watched
Ta-da!
were Klaus and Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Nightmare Before Christmas, a holiday classic. Depending on who you ask, maybe a different holiday for some than others.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like 30 years old. Klaus just came out this holiday season, and it's Netflix's first animated feature film, original content.
Yeah.
It's created by other people. It's not like an in-house team, but
Right.
it's still like they are the distributor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we put these together for reasons, some of which we have already weirdly mentioned,
Yeah.
but maybe we should do it more.
Yeah. So they both kind of tell kind of an origin story.
A Christmas origin story.
They kind of subvert the traditional Christmas story.
And both are on the surface about bringing Christmas to a new place that has never had Christmas before.
And that place is dark.
Yeah, very gray toned.
Very gray and very like...
The people are creepy.
Very scary, a little violent maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these movies, like, they do tie together in a really interesting
I'm
way.
excited to talk about them because they are different, but it's neat to kind of swirl around a theme. It's almost as if this is a great concept for a podcast
Man,
that we've created.
It's almost like this is what we do every 2 weeks. Normally.
We are so grateful to only be doing it every 2 weeks for a while. We had to take out the microphones again out of their pack after they had been just standing in our apartment for 30 days for our 30 days of plus adventure.
Yeah.
We finally got to put them away and didn't see them for a week. It was so nice.
Yeah, and this is our first recording since the end of 30 days.
It is.
So I want to say again, thank you to anyone who listened
To any day.
To any day. And if you made it through all 30 days with us, thank you. We
Congrats.
appreciate the support. And
thank you for bearing with us as we transition back to this format, which
we've kind of forgotten how to do.
Yep.
Even though we did 2 of them during that 30 days.
However, Dick, for the first time in forever, this is the first original format Cellmates episode that we have been able to watch one of the movies on Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we were dummies, and the 2 episodes that we did record during 30 Days of Plus were all movies that are not Disney. Yeah. They're not even Disney owned.
It was a poor choice.
That was dumb. But now we can see at least one of these movies. So let's start with that one, which is The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay.
Dick, what is your history with this movie? Oh, settle in.
This movie and I have some history. So I saw this in the theaters when it came out, I think. Yeah, it sounds right. I was an age. I was in 7th grade when this came out on VHS or DVD. I know that because I got an F in my algebra class.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I knew that. And my mom knew that. But my dad did not know that. And report cards went home the week before Christmas. And mom's like, look, I'm not going to tell him till after Christmas. But after Christmas, I'm going to have to tell him. So the entire time we're watching this Christmas Eve, I just have this gut-wrenching feeling. So I'm trying to enjoy the movie and I can't.
Oh.
So that's my most memorable experience with this movie. But also, you and I saw it recently.
We did.
Live.
We did. My history with this movie is I only saw it a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
I saw it while I had adult strep throat. And I figured, what's a movie I can watch? This one.
Yeah.
I think it must have been on Netflix or something because I think it just popped up. I'm like, oh, yeah, I haven't seen this one yet. So I was aware of it growing up, but didn't really know what it was. My brother went through a Jack Skellington, not really a phase. He wasn't goth and didn't shop at Hot Topic, but that was the thing he wanted when we went to Disneyland.
It's Jack Skellington stuff.
And then, the second time I saw this movie was with you at...
That was the second time you'd seen it? Wow.
Yeah. Was with you at the Barclays Center, big old arena in Brooklyn. And it was live to music with the original cast. Danny Elfman is there singing and maybe conducting the orchestra too.
I think
Catherine O'Hara was
there. Conducting and singing.
Yeah.
I think so.
So it was the movie... if you've listened to our Little Mermaid live episode, similar to that format where it's just the songs that they are performing live and it's the movie in between.
Yeah, and very much concert format where they're not putting on scenes and stuff. They're just standing in front of a microphone and singing. But yeah, Catherine O'Hara, Danny Elfman, and surprise, Greg Proops.
Surprise.
I forgot he was in this movie.
I don't know that he is.
He is.
Did you see him in the credits?
Yeah.
He wasn't playing the part that what was he? Wasn't he one of the Lock, Shock, and Barrels?
Yeah.
That he wasn't credited as such.
Yes, he was.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Greg Proops, Catherine O'Hara, and Paul Rubens.
Oh, okay.
Who I don't believe...
I saw Danny Elfman as one of those characters in the end credits that we saw.
That might have been a singing voice. Because he's only the singing voice of Jack Skellington.
That is... And I learned that today.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because he's not a singer.
No. But he also isn't an actor, so...
That's fair.
I guess he's a musician.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, do you have a cookie timer?
I do have a cookie timer
Okay.
ready. Yeah, because I guess we can talk about our live concert experience after we've kind of hashed out the plot of this.
Absolutely.
All right. Cookie timer. All right. So, Dick, in 2 minutes, you are going to outline the basic plot of The Nightmare Before Christmas.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Cultural appropriation.
The musical.
The musical. Olaf's Frozen Adventure. Okay, so Jack Skellington is a hero in this Halloween town. He is like the best scarer. He's the Sully. And he's a little bored. And he goes for a walk. He's like depressed. He's bored of scaring people. And he finds this door with a tree on it. And he goes in, and it's a town called Christmas Town. And he's like, what's this? Holy crap. This is great. I want to do Christmas. So he goes back to Halloween Town, and he's like, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a Christmas for you. And they're all like, we kind of understand. And he's like, just do it. And so he hires like some dorks to kidnap Santa Claus, and he takes over for Santa Claus, and he delivers presents to all the girls and boys, but the presents are slightly evil or wacky, or they're like
Severed
heads. And then he gets shot down by the government, and then he decides he's Halloween man.
You got it. 40 seconds left. What else do you want to talk about?
Well, there's like a love story in this. There's a character named Sally, and
there is that.
She feeds the guy who created her deadly nightshade, and then goes off. Also, there's like a racist ass cartoon character.
Yeah. The depiction is racist more than
a problematic ass Oogie Boogie man who's got a neat song
filled with bugs.
Yeah.
That's 5, 4, 3, 2.
Yep.
What's this?
Cookies are done.
Yeah, that's a good meta representation of this movie.
I mean, there's not much.
A lot
to it.
happens, and then you kind of sit there for a while.
Yeah, Kate, I wasn't trying to do a short description. I just I went through the important story beats, and I was like, well, I guess that's it.
This is an exercise. So we talk sometimes about a lot of movies have a 3-act structure, a lot of stories in general. This one is no different, except for Act 1 is a lot of front-loaded content and plot in terms of what the rest of the movie is going to be. Act 3 is kind of action-packed. It's wrapped up in weird ways, but fine. Act 2 is
nothing.
a slog, and it shouldn't be. And I don't know if I don't know if kids had this experience in the original, but every time I've watched it, that has been my experience, and I always want it to be different. Because this movie looks so cool. And it's always good to look at. And
if this is your favorite movie, that's okay. Good for you. I like this movie.
I do too.
More than I am not going to sound like I like this movie as much as I do. I think it's a good movie. I think it's really fascinating. It's well crafted. The craft of the movie is well crafted.
Because it's 93. It is stop motion.
It's beautiful.
It looks like CGI. I mean, from the 2019 eyes.
Yeah.
I can't believe that it's not CGI.
Yeah, it's stunning. And it has story problems, and it has performance problems.
And character problems. It doesn't really have characters.
The movie doesn't.
The one character it does have, it kind of fumbles in the...
Yeah. The movie doesn't hold up under much analysis, but I really enjoy watching it. I I really like listening to versions of the soundtrack.
I think these songs. So it's interesting. So this is a musical. The other movie we're talking about is not. So let's talk a little bit about music now before we dive into the other. Because I am very interested in like musical theater soundtrack or like score construction. And I think, and Danny Elfman does everything here. He does music and lyrics, and sometimes he's singing. And it's interesting, especially in like the first couple songs, which are kind of the more famous ones, with a couple exceptions later on. He does so many things that are very interesting and, at least for 1993, a little bit progressive in terms of musical theater writing, that it's a little bit more Sondheimy and like through composed, except for he still has refrains and he has A sections and B sections, but he's doing really interesting things with, especially with like back and forth dialogue in these, that they play like just regular book scenes set to music. And I think that's sometimes really hard to do, to make it sound organic and natural and not just like, now there is a song. Everything has to rhyme. Like,
is there a point where you think is there like a particular song that you think is very effective?
I think for me, What's This is the best song in the whole thing. Like, it is so clever. His basically the refrain is, what's this? What's this? Da, 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 da. And the words change every time, but he is being introduced to Christmas Town, and so he's identifying new gadgets and new phenomenons with every verse. And then he has a bridge where he's like, this is the solution to my midlife crisis of like being bored of scaring people. I have found it. What's this? And then it gets interrupted, and it's almost it reminds me in some ways of like a Muppet movie, and I mean that in general, type of song, where I remember listening to an interview with Britt, of the one who did the Muppets soundtrack, Brett of
of Flight of the Conchords.
Always forget Flight of the Conchords, that name. Anyway, he was saying that in talking with all these, Henson Legacy people, the thing that like Jim Henson loved about Muppet songs is that they would like be very traditional up to a point, and then they would like break open, like something ridiculous would happen. You can't just end a song sincerely. And I think this does that. Like, one, it's very fun in how it takes his surprise and his what's this and turns it into music. And then it ends with him crashing into a candy cane pole. Like, that's fun. Like, he doesn't get a big ending for it. It's really neat.
Yeah. And he, I'd say this song has the most dynamics as a song. Like, it has some slow parts. It has a really nice bridge that kind of goes like legato and a little flowing, and then jumps back to the da-da.
And that's the thing, is that I think Danny Elfman is doing some really interesting things musical theater-wise. I also think he's missing some really important things to solidify this musical theater as something that drives the story as opposed to just kind of like pauses it.
Yeah.
And the next song is an example of that, because the next song is him introducing Christmas to his Halloween people.
Yeah.
And lyrically and structurally, it's very much like What's This? And he's like, here's a new Christmas thing, da-da-da-da-da. And Halloween, and like the pattern is Halloween people are like, oh, does it have bugs in it? Oh, can you rip off its head? And he's like, no, okay, no.
Yeah, whenever I talk about improv, one of the things I come back to is like, what is the game of the scene, or what is the game? Because the game is the joke. And so the game here is, hey, here's a present. Oh, is there a head in it? No. Okay, here's a sock. Oh,
is there a foot still left inside?
Yeah. So it's, here's an innocent thing. Oh, we think of a horrible version of that.
And so how Jack flips the game is, because he wants to be able to celebrate Christmas in Halloween Town, is that he's like, okay, I got to think of something that cool. So now Santa Claus is a monster, and that's how he introduces Santa Claus to Halloween Town, and it's a fun turn. But the music doesn't support it as like a light bulb moment. It just feels the same as the other verses.
There's just like this weird aside.
There's a little
like,
sound effect.
Give them what they want.
Yeah. And so, like, had he been working with someone with a little bit more experience in musical theater, I think that song could possibly be the best one. Yeah. But yeah, the dynamics weren't there, and so it's really interesting
I do want to
to
give
me because I think the music is really good.
Yeah.
And like you said, like versions of it.
Yeah,
I
do want
to
to
redone.
give a shout out to Nightmare Revisited, which is an album where like a bunch of artists cover it.
Oh.
So This Is Halloween is done by Marilyn Manson, which is great. The Town Meeting song is Polyphonic Spree, which is very fun. And then Kidnap the Sandy Claus is Korn. And it sounds just like you might think. So there's
That's really neat.
Yeah, it's like not necessarily all artists I love, but it's like they're well cast for this album. Like it's really interesting.
Well,
to
I will
listen
be
to.
very interested in listening to that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we've been on this for a little while. So
Yeah, we have. Let's talk. What's the next movie we talked about?
Klaus.
Klaus.
Much easier, much fewer syllables.
Okay, what's your experience with Klaus?
My experience with Klaus is that Netflix did that annoying thing where it just plays a preview without you asking. But this time was like the 1 in 100 times where I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I think I need to see this.
Yeah, it was a great preview.
There were jokes. The animation looked fun.
Yeah.
It is CGI, but it reminds me a little bit of how the character design looks in Into the Spider-Verse, where they're like a little bit like paper doll,
a little flat design,
a little flat,
Yeah.
and yet they're 3-dimensional, and it's just such a cool look.
Yeah.
And yeah, it didn't feel like it should have felt really obnoxious, and it didn't. So just right there, I'm willing to give it a try.
oh, I'm being forced this ad, and I like it.
Yeah.
All right.
So then I watched it with you. Dick, what was your experience?
Same. And
We were there for all of it.
This is written and directed. This
Definitely
is like
created and directed.
from the twisted mind. This is by Sergio Pablos, who created Despicable Me.
Yes.
Which you have not seen. Is that
I
correct?
have not seen, but I've heard from everyone that it's great.
It's like surprisingly great.
So yeah, he had come up with this concept, and I think had maybe even created like a storyboard children's book type of thing, and then shopped it around, and Netflix won. So it's his studio that is based in Spain and the States. But yeah, you've got an American voice cast, and obviously American distribution.
Yeah.
Netflix did like a week in theaters, so it could be nominated for Oscars and stuff.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, how cool! Like, hey, I made Despicable Me. There's like 1 billion sequels.
Yeah.
I made some good money. I'm going back to Spain to start an animation studio.
Yeah.
I don't need to live here.
Yeah.
Like, good for you.
Great.
And
it seems to have worked out well for him.
Yeah, how'd it go?
Thus far?
How's Klaus?
Let me before we give a more of a
Ooh,
not
we wanna
review.
do a-
We're
we
not a
wanna do a
review
cookie
podcast.
timer?
I want to do a cookie podcast.
So Kate,
timer.
you've got
Words are hard.
2 minutes now.
I've got 2 minutes.
And you are having trouble with words.
And
So
we
it's gonna
saw
be a
this movie
challenging 2 minutes.
like in the middle of 30 Days of Plus, so
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of things since. This will go really well.
So 2 minutes.
Here we
for
go.
the plot of Klaus. 1, 2, 3, go.
There's a guy. He's a rich kid, and he's not very good at postal school. So his dad's like, nope, you can't flunk out on purpose. I'm sending you, essentially, to the North Pole, and you must start a post office there that receives and sends out 6,000 letters in a year. Otherwise, I'm cutting you off
You won't get
from
your
our
inheritance.
wealthy family.
Yeah.
And he goes, uh-oh. So it's a little bit of like a Cusco situation where like he's always been spoiled and now he has to work for the first time. And he gets to this town, and the town is famous for feuds. There are 2 like factions of this town, and everyone has beef with each other, and that's just how it's been for hundreds of years, and they're proud of their feuding heritage. So anyway, no one sends letters to and from because they're very isolated, and also no one is friendly. And so he decides to wrap it up. But anyway, the kid draws a picture because he's sad, and he gets attached to him, and it ends up with this big guy who Santa, and Santa decides to give a toy to him because he's sad, and then another kid brings this little postal worker a letter. He's like, oh, this is how I'm gonna get the 6,000 letters. I'm gonna deliver kids' letters to this old man. He's going to give them their toys, and then it's going to be that way forever and ever. Well, it turns out Santa only has a limited amount of toys, but it's this big phenomenon. He's right. Like, all these kids bring the letters, and then Santa runs out of toys, but oh no, he's got to make new toys, but he doesn't want to because his wife died, and that's all the toys they had for their kids that never were born. And so he's like, nope, I quit. And then the postal worker's like, no, you have to go on. And so they get elves from a neighboring town, and they start making more toys, and then the dad comes back. He's like, congratulations, 6,000 letters. But Elf Man is like, nope, I got to stay in this town. And then they basically deliver Christmas to this town. It didn't help that I didn't remember anyone's names.
No. That was like how I normally describe movies.
I guess his name was Klaus, not Santa.
Yeah, his name was Klaus.
But he was basically Santa.
Well, I mean, it's confusing. Sometimes it's a movie like Coco, where the movie is not named after the main character.
Jesper is the main character.
Jesper.
There we go.
And you said he reminds you of who?
Kuzco.
So who's Kuzco?
Kuzco is the co-protagonist in the movie Emperor's New Groove, the title character. Cotagonist, who turns into a llama and has to be selfless and help others in order to be turned back into a human.
Yeah.
Similar arc for this character, Jesper.
And similar vibe.
Yeah.
Especially like at the beginning.
I forgot in a bunch of scenes that he wasn't being played by David Spade.
Yeah.
Like, it's Jason Schwartzman doing his best David Spade.
Kind of, right?
But it's very sincere. It doesn't feel forced or fake.
Yeah.
What you can't convey as much in a plot summary is that by creating this phenomenon of sad kids writing letters to this mysterious man who then delivers them toys that just bring them total joy, it transforms this town that is feuding. Mm-hmm. And the kids start doing, playing with each other like, oh, that's a cool frog toy. You live across the fence from me, but let's play together.
Yeah.
And then it does this thing, and I think, Dick, as we were watching it, you described it as, they're doing this thing that I hate in most movies, but I don't mind here, where they're like one at a time, they're giving like a little, just a little nod to a backstory of just about every popular Christmas tradition. So like, there's this one bully kid who like throws a snowball at Jesper at one point, and he writes a letter, and Jesper's like, oh no, Santa, this guy doesn't deliver toys to naughty kids.
Yeah.
There's a list. He knows if you've been bad or good. So it's moments like that where, like, again, like it is written in. It is not the subtlest.
Right.
But they're cute. They're all well brainstormed.
And I think part of what makes it better for me in this is that I don't know how the coal thing got started. Also, the whole Santa thing is like a legend or a myth or whatever that's been passed down verbally.
Yes.
So if it's like, hey, this is the actual way it happens, like, oh, okay, how about that?
Yeah. But because of that naughty nice thing, the kids start doing good deeds around town, and they wear off on their adults, and the adults start doing nice things, and so then it becomes this, like, it's not two feuding factions, it's the ruling class who want to keep people at each other.
Yeah.
And then everyone else who's like, oh no, it's better to be nicer.
No, it's better to be good to people.
So Jesper ends up saving Klaus.
Yeah.
But trying to. Klaus and the school teacher in the town actually had the plan, but because these warring leaders try to overthrow Klaus and sabotage his gift-giving initiatives, but they lose because love wins.
So this movie's great.
This movie was so fun to watch, and it's so sweet, and it's so, like, it's really good.
Yeah. And I'd say, like, it mixes the kind of, like, dark the like kind of dark humor and kind of ugliness that Nightmare does. And I think it does it really well.
And it delivers kind of a single-minded message that like the season, it takes the idea of like the Christmas season is about joy and giving, and it brings it to life.
Yeah.
And that's what it is about. It is about all these like selfish, self-centered characters realizing that there's something bigger between them, and life goes much more happily, much more smoothly when you work together and you are kind to one another instead of just worrying about yourself.
Yeah.
And it works for several characters and several communities in the film. So it feels very cohesive. Like someone thought about these stories.
So
this story and the storyboarding and everything.
I guess let's focus on that for a minute. The message, like this film, like you said, the message is if you do something for other people, it's good.
It's contagious. Yeah. It's contagious.
Yeah,
and that's so much better.
They keep saying like one unselfish act, right? Wait, was that this movie?
Yeah, that's this one.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
One unselfish act begets another, or it's like some phrase like that,
Yeah.
and it comes up several times.
Yeah. So that's like that is the thesis of this movie. Is if you do something nice, that's good, and other people will also do nice things.
Yeah.
What is the overall theme / meaning / purpose of Nightmare Before Christmas?
So I've got some things it could be or it could have been. At times, it is at times it is turning over a new leaf can reinvigorate your life.
Okay.
At times, it is trying to take someone else's traditions without the right research or resources can be disastrous. And then at times, it is all is forgiven if you save the day. And at times, it is isolation is not good and working together is good. Which is to say, I don't know.
Yeah, I think my idea of what it wants to be is be who you are, like be yourself.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like that's like the movie has, like you said, a couple of different thrusts. It goes in a couple of different directions, but I think like Jack tries to be someone that he's not, and it doesn't work out. So it's like, be the best you that you can be. I don't know.
Yeah, on that level, it's a little bit Wizard of Oz-y, right? Like, there's no place like home.
Yeah.
Is kind of his culmination, but it isn't supported by anything else in the movie. What it could have been is a real commentary on a cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
And it gets 3/4 of the way there, and then it's fumbled in the third act.
So let's talk about that. Do you think that's what they were going for? Do you think there was an intent to say hey, if you just grab the trappings of a celebration, because this is supposed to be a Christmas movie, right? And I think Christmas movies always have a pretty easy message.
Yeah.
Generally. And do you think this was maybe a Charlie Brown true meaning of Christmas is about more than presents and being Santa and decorations and stuff? The true meaning is the intent behind all that.
Yeah, I think it's a more obtuse telling of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, right? That's
How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
We've called that so many things today.
The Grinch Before Christmas.
The Grinch Before Christmas is my favorite.
But it is one of Burton's influences in the original treatment of this, which was back in the early 80s when he worked for Disney the first time. So yeah, there's a little of that, but I think they needed to hit it a little bit more times. Like,
Yeah.
that message is there, but it's not very clear.
Yeah.
It's obscured by a lot of other things.
I think that's a good way of put it. It is obscured by other things. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that in 1993 we're thinking about cultural appropriation.
Right.
What it kind of seems like to me is maybe a few writers had that in mind and like tried to poke it in there, like, hey. But then at the end, right? Like, okay, so Jack is having a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
He's bored of Halloween. He finds this new thing, Christmas, and he's like, "This is so cool. I want to bring this to everyone I know because this is what I want to do now. I
Yeah.
don't want to do Halloween
This is
anymore.
my new thing.
This is my new thing." And then they do it all wrong, right? Like
Yeah.
he does all these tests and tries to make Christmas an equation, and like you can't quantify
Yeah.
Christmas. Then you see that it goes terribly wrong when he tries to be Santa Claus for the real world. Because the premise is that there are these different holiday lands, and then on their holiday, the inhabitants of these holiday towns go out into like Earth and spread Halloween spooks or Christmas cheer or
Let me tell you this.
Easter sweets.
I never understood that. This is the first time that I understood that because we never see the real world during Halloween.
No.
So
We don't. That's a good point.
When Jack gets the sleigh and goes out delivering presents at Christmas,
Yeah.
I was always under the impression that this was part of Christmas Town.
Yeah.
This was just like people that live in Christmas Town.
That's fair.
But it makes more sense that it's people in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that like the art style between Christmas Town and the real world is not different enough because they're just
Yeah.
snowy.
Yeah. I agree with you. But it is fun that it's not just like, oh, this is now a new like goth way of doing Christmas. Like kids open boxes and there's a severed head and they're
Yeah.
like terrified.
They're not happy about
not
it.
pleased.
Yeah.
The police keep getting called for this terrible skeleton man
No.
who's running around dropping atrocities in people's homes. So it's neat that like he is not successful in this
Yeah.
thing that is bringing him life.
And that is one of my favorite parts of this movie.
Uh-huh.
And I wish we had less of all of the stuff leading up to this
Yeah.
in Act 2, this very long, slow Act 2. I wish we had like less of Sally and the night. Sally
And Oogie Boogie are interesting characters on their own. Oogie Boogie and incredibly problematic, but like
wow.
visually interesting. His song is fun, if incredibly problematic. It's one of the more dynamic pieces of music in
and
the
the
movie.
thing with Oogie Boogie like is he is a gambling jazz
burlap sack filled with bugs.
and like the only black character or the only character voiced by a black man. Like it's taking a trope from old cartoons. Yes.
Cartoons.
Yes. Where like, you know, you would like the devil might be like like he'd get you into gambling and he'd play jazz and like it's a really problematic trope. And they used it
for
no reason.
You can take Oogie Boogie out of the movie and I lose nothing of the story, nothing of the characters. Like he's so shoehorned in there that like it just doesn't make sense.
Right, but also like there's no reason for him to be a gambling boogeyman. There's no reason for him to be jazzy. Like if there was any like intent behind this besides I think this is cool.
Yeah.
Then he could be a lot more interesting. And I love like problematic or not, I love the character of Oogie Boogie. I love Oogie Boogie's song. It's such a great song. It's well sung. He's so fun to watch. But at the end of the day, like you said,
he doesn't have any impact.
Yeah, he's just kind of a cul-de-sac.
I mean, and Sally is the same way.
Yeah.
She's got, I think, a lot more potential because in so many ways, like, she's designed as a foil to Jack.
Yeah.
That she is, like, thinking ahead to, like, oh, stealing Christmas might be problematic in the long run. Like, she's getting these premonitions
She's
that,
like,
everything's going to go up in
badly.
flames. And, like, she's asked to design his Santa costume. She's like, this just feels really wrong.
Yeah.
So, like, she has this foresight, but then it doesn't really amount to anything. I guess she finds that Santa has been kidnapped a second time by Oogie Boogie before Jack does. So, like, maybe she prolongs the, like, she buys them time. But, like, they have this weird, like, then getting together as a couple at the end that's really not... That's not built up to it all, besides the fact that they are our male and female hero characters. Oh my gosh.
She has been locked, presumably in this like tower.
She's a Frankenstein monster.
Yeah.
But she's been sewn together.
And she's been locked in this tower for a while.
Yeah.
She escapes the tower.
Mother Gothel's monster.
And sees Jack. She escapes the tower again and gives Jack like some wine. But doesn't say hello to him.
But then disappears.
And then the third time,
they're in the same scene together.
He knows her name.
Yeah.
And knows that she's like creative and innovative and that she can sew.
He's like, make me the Santa Claus suit.
And she's like, oh, this is a problem. He's like, no, only someone like you could. Like,
my dear friend.
My dear...
Who I've never shared an actual scene with in this movie up to this point.
So weird. It's so weird.
It's very like, well, we've got a boy and a girl. Bartok needs a girl bat at the end of the movie. It kind of feels like that.
So, but
on the other hand,
so I was gonna say,
Klaus seems very deliberate in its characters. I mean, so there's a romance subplot, but it's better done than this. Like. It is more or less predictable.
It's hard not to be better done than this.
Yeah.
But I will say...
all the characters are really interesting in Klaus. The main characters, for sure.
I don't care for the romance subplot.
No, that's fine.
Because I don't feel it's... Like, similarly, I don't feel like it's earned.
Yeah.
There's not really like a love story between these two. It's what's his name? Jesper
and
the
Rashida Jones.
Yeah, the town's teacher who when we first meet her, she's a fishmonger.
Miss Alva.
She's a fishmonger in a school.
Right.
And she's like, look, kids don't
I came to this town to be a teacher, but
yeah, no one's sending their kids. Kids don't want to learn. So I sell fish. Mm-hmm. I'm saving up enough money to get out of here.
Don't rock the boat.
And
sell fish.
He's like the postman that's been assigned to this place where no postman has ever succeeded.
Right.
So there's kind of a they're kind of similar characters. She's the jaded version of him.
Right.
And so there's like a nice friendship that develops between them. And a little bit of like an antagonistic relationship, even though they're on the same side. And it's very nice, like watching them both kind of evolve in their like teaching and postal careers.
Yeah, and the idea is that once the kids really get excited about writing letters to Santa, they want to go to school to learn how to write their names and write a letter to Santa and ask him for what they want.
And it's really like there's a scene where she's like doing her first class.
Yeah.
And she shows one of the kids how to write her name, and like the kid goes ballistic, and they're all so excited.
Tell me how to write my name. Tell me how to write my name.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
It's a really cool scene. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like the romance between those two, I feel like is not super earned.
Yeah, I feel like it would be more of a. So what I thought was going to happen in this movie. So spoilers. Once.
Now
Klaus and
now it's spoilers.
Miss Alva and other people who want Christmas to be a thing. Yeah, they basically they're like, well, all these presents, like we need a couple more letters.
Yeah.
Let's make Christmas and presents a thing is the conceit.
Yeah.
So once they save it from the people who want to still be feuding, it becomes a tradition in the town that every year at Christmas, Klaus brings everyone presents. But after like a dozen years, Klaus, who is old, passes away. But still somehow Christmas comes to the town every year.
I mean, we assume he passes away.
Yeah, it's kind of like he joining his wind wife.
He just walks into the distance.
He walks into the distance.
But yeah,
and no one can find him.
Klaus has passed away.
Yeah.
But the presents are still being delivered.
But the presents are still being delivered, and what you see in the end is that Jesper, it's like, Christmas several years later, they have kids, they've settled down as a family, and they put the kids to bed on Christmas. He waves his wife goodnight, and then he waits by the fireplace to see his friend, which is really sweet.
And then you don't,
it ends with him waiting and smiling.
You don't see Klaus come back, so it's kind of like...
Which is cool.
It's kind of like, oh, is he really back, or is it just like the tradition that's keeping alive?
Yeah, so what I thought was going to happen is that there's a little bit of a time lapse at the end that shows Christmas happening a couple of years in a row, and Jesper starts to grow a mustache, and his hair gets a little gray, so I'm like, oh, he's the next Santa.
Oh.
And so I thought it was more of like we're putting the puzzle pieces into place for, there has to be a Mrs. Claus.
Yeah.
So that's her. So I thought they were doing that. That's not what they were
That's
doing.
not what they're doing.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But that would, I guess, maybe give a little bit more impetus for a romance for
Because
there has to be a Mrs. Claus.
Even though there's not a Mrs. Claus.
Well, she died, but it's part of his story.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, this movie is great.
Yeah, and
it looks great.
It
too.
It does have one romance that I really do love, and that's between the two barely verbal giant children
of the feuding
of
families.
the feuding lords.
Yeah,
it's
like Pumpkin and something,
and like Ugg or
they
something.
are. They're like the giant Muppets, like the Sweetums type. Like
I think they're both voiced by the director.
By Sergio.
Yeah, they're just giant children.
Yeah.
The big sons, big daughter.
Yeah.
And they have like a very weird love at the end where they find each other, and a Pumpkin, I think, just grabs the guy and she's like, mine.
Yeah, that's like her line the whole movie is.
Very cute.
Yeah. It's really refreshing to see a children's animated feature film. Especially one that's coming out on just a streaming network that is really faithful to good storytelling doesn't need that many characters that I know by name. It needs some good, silhouette contrast.
Yeah.
Jesper looks very different from Klaus, looks very different from these giant, child human adults. And, this movie looks really good, too. The characters are simple. The plot is very straightforward. The message is simple. But also, it's a Netflix movie. I was expecting the animation to be a little bit phoned in.
Yeah.
And it looks really cool.
It's great. Yeah, the animation's great. The designs are great. Both of these movies use color in a really interesting way, I find.
Say more.
Because Nightmare Before Christmas starts in Halloween Town, which kind of at the beginning is a colorful place. And then Jack goes to Christmas Town, and it's bright and shiny and bold colors.
You don't realize the colors that you're missing in the palette.
And then as soon as you go back to Halloween Town, it looks like it's in black and white.
Yes.
And
I wonder if there is a contrast.
I don't know if the color grade changes or they dip out some contrast.
Yeah.
Or if it's just because you got used to Christmas Town,
right.
And then you, like you say, you go back to the palette of Halloween Town.
Right.
You realize the colors that you're missing.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whoa, this is drab.
It's a really nice effect.
Yeah.
And Klaus does that as well.
Klaus does
the town of
Smearensburg.
Yeah.
Smearensburg.
Something like that.
Smearensburg.
Smearensburg. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was land.
Nope.
Yeah, very gray in the beginning. You have these two clans, and one is all black, and one is pale blues, and then they have red hair. So there's the color pop. That's it. And it's snow covered.
And that
gray
red hair
skies.
is still pretty. It's very muted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Klaus and the toy shop, and I mean not Klaus in the beginning, but once you introduce that the one like Nordic girl who keeps showing up at the post
Oh
office
my God, she's great.
trying to get a toy, but like she doesn't speak the same language, so she's just speaking like I mean, I'm sure it's a language, but to us it just sounds like Swedish Chef.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't understand you. I don't know what you want. But eventually, with the teacher's help, she gets her point across. But when she gets her toy, her whole clan of Nordic people come over and they're like, cool, we're on board to help you make toys. And like they're all dressed in these bright reds and blues and golds, and they make the ubiquitous Santa outfit for Santa. The coloring and the lighting in this movie and in Nightmare Before Christmas, I think is very impressive for any kind of animation. But again, the fact that Nightmare is stop motion, and one, it looks super smooth, and I know this is people's crafts, they know how to do it, but the lighting is so specific.
Yeah.
And so well orchestrated and art directed that it just, again, like you just forget that it's any kind of animation. Like CGI aside, these are real. This is all real. And it is. Like it's technically just live action. It's just you don't see any human parts. Like,
and like
it's clay and plastic and
like I don't know if I had seen any stop motion animation that good before this.
And it's not, you've got like, you know, like what the Wallace and Gromit and all the things that studio does get some prominence after this, but like it very much looks like clay people, and it's, you know, it's the storytelling and the character's expression that's fun, but like there's no hiding that it's like claymation.
Yeah.
This is like hard to tell what it is often.
Yeah.
And it blows me away still that like,
and like you said, like if I was to see this today, not 1993, but like, or was it 93, 95? 93. But like today, and I hadn't seen it before, and you said, how do they do this? I'd say, oh, CG.
Definitely.
That's really cool CG.
Yeah. And I feel like things like Klaus and Into the Spider-Verse are taking some of these stop motion techniques and putting them into their CG to make it a little bit more visually interesting. And it's not so like, I mean, the obvious punching bag is DreamWorks, but like DreamWorks Goopy, where it's just everything is like weirdly fluid and rounded in a way where you're like, well, now I don't really care about looking at this.
Yeah.
Like, and the Nightmare Before Christmas is a very artistically or aesthetically unique style where it's like super grotesque and angular. But Klaus isn't that much different in terms of like how unique, how you can tell there's intention in, we want to make these characters look different from your typical DreamWorks or like, I'm thinking of like The Reef, like just like really general, low budget animation where it's like there's a certain aesthetic that I associate with those types of movies.
Care put into making these designs.
These angles are on purpose.
Yeah, it's like we are making an animated movie. It is not going to look like a Disney movie. It's not going to look like a DreamWorks movie. It's not going to look like an Illumination movie. It's going to look like its own thing.
And I wonder how much of that is based in the kind of the iconic stop motion of these like 50s and 60s and 70s stop motion specials, like Rudolph and all of those from that studio. Because I know that Tim Burton was influenced by that. Yeah. Like he credits Rudolph and The Grinch and then a poem. Like his original Nightmare Before Christmas is a 3-page long poem that he wanted to make either into a short film or like a 30-minute TV holiday special.
And that like 'twas the Nightmare Before Christmas and all in the house, blah 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 blah. There was a severed head. Yeah, right? Like that's the inspiration for this movie. Basically.
Yeah. So I guess my question for you, Dick, is considering these like classics, right? Like Rudolph airs every year. Yeah. I don't know when the last time I saw it was. I think maybe sometime in college. or The Grinch or something, like how do these movies, which are both aiming to be Christmas movies, some people consider Nightmare Halloween movie, or it kind of plays
Well,
like a
I'll
straight
tell you
two
what,
months.
Nightmare is definitely not a Halloween ride.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
true.
Thank you, Disney.
It's a holiday overlay of the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland from like October 1st
From like
to January
October
1st.
onwards, it makes no sense.
It's a lot going on. But how do these stack up, Dick? As like when you make a holiday movie, the idea, I think, especially now, is that it's going to be played every year.
Yeah.
How do these both stack up in that tradition?
Yeah, like as classics,
Yeah.
as like holiday classics. I think Nightmare, like I said, Nightmare has a lot of faults, and I would love to have it on while I'm doing something else. Like last year we hung out with your family and we like played a card game while A Christmas Story was on, which is I think the optimal way to watch A Christmas Story.
yeah.
I think that movie's fine. I really love to tune in for parts of it, and then I just tune out for so much of it.
That's fair.
But it's like an 8-hour long movie, so
Like 90 minutes.
8 hours. So yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas, I think is like 80% style and 20% movie. Mm-hmm. Like I love it's also like the movie that is single-handedly responsible for Hot Topic succeeding as a brand.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think there's a style to it. I think there's kind of a vibe that it gives off. There's kind of an attitude that it has that I think is stronger than the movie itself. So like as a Christmas classic, like I don't know. Am I gonna have it on like in the background during a Christmas thing? Yeah, maybe. But like the design, like not the characters, because I don't care so much about the characters, but the design of the characters, the character design. Yeah, like I'd put a Jack Skellington on my Christmas tree.
Yeah. Huh. I kept wishing, and this is weird, I kept wishing that there were commercial breaks. Because I think I would have been able to appreciate, because like this is a movie of individual scenes. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's any scene in this movie that I don't like, but there's a lot of scenes that feel redundant in tone and arc that I'm like, oh, this is just kind of the same song, but a different character is singing it now.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if it was punctuated by commercial breaks, and like you said, if it's in the background, like, oh, yeah, this scene. Oh, yeah, this scene. But all in a row, it's kind of like, okay, so you had like 3 tricks, and you're just now cycling through them again.
You're just doing them again.
You're just kind of biding time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And knowing that this could have been a 30-minute holiday special instead of a full-length movie, I think is a missed opportunity. Yeah, because I think, like you said, like just stylistically, it is a classic.
Yeah.
Like people know about this movie, people know what it looks like. Like it has cemented itself as a classic, but I think I would personally enjoy it more as a little bit more condensed or broken up or something.
There's nothing wrong. Like some of my favorite Christmas things are the Christmas Toy, which is like 45 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, 45 minutes. The Bells of Fraggle Rock, like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what else?
Christmas movies in
Charlie
general
Brown Christmas. Like, I know you don't care for him. But Charlie Brown Christmas, 20, 30 minutes.
But even like, it is a thing. Like, even the Christmas Story is like 90 minutes without commercial
There's no
breaks.
way that's true.
That is absolutely true.
That movie is 8 hours long.
And like Elf isn't that long. Like there's something to be said of like, this movie is going to be watched every year and it's going to be rotated with a bunch of other things that are watched every year. Make it short, keep it to the point, make sure every scene is one that someone wants to watch.
Sure. But yeah, but my point was, if you're making a Christmas movie and it is a half hour long, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because those are or The Grinch, that's the other one.
Yeah, The Grinch is the most.
I don't I do not care
closest.
to watch a 2-hour long or hour and a half long version of The Grinch.
Yeah.
I have not. I will not.
Yeah.
I don't need to see Jim Carrey or Mike Myers or whoever.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
I don't need to see that.
Yeah.
You know what I need? I need Thurl Ravenscroft reading a little song poem.
Yep.
I need that dog
The
with
Grinch
antlers
slithers
on.
under a tree like a train. Yeah.
And then just be done.
Yeah.
That's it. And this, like, I could see this being tighter if they got rid of some of the extraneous stuff and just told the story that they wanted to tell.
Yeah.
Which seems to be there's a skeleton man who's like kind of runs Halloween
He's
Town.
Halloween king.
He's a Halloween king. He wants to do Christmas.
And then he
it
realizes,
goes wrong. He gives it back to Santa.
No, I'm going to stay in my lane and do Halloween. Yeah. Yeah. That would be a great 30-minute special.
Yeah.
Whereas Klaus, like, I might watch again in a week when we're with my family. If my brother hasn't seen it,
Yeah.
like, I'll be like, guys, we're watching Klaus.
I really liked that movie.
Yeah. It made me cry in a couple parts.
Mm-hmm.
It was warming. It was like, to me, a little bit more of what the traditional Christmas annual movie does, of like, this is just warming enough, but also I'm having fun.
Yeah.
And also, like, it's very specifically holiday, like, it's very festive in terms of like, the cold thing.
Yeah.
Oh, the reindeers are being catapulted off this roof, so they look like they're flying. That's why reindeers fly.
Really easy to understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You can tune in and tune out and still know exactly where you are.
But it's got enough of a story that I'm like,
that
all
you
right.
probably won't tune out.
It makes its case for it being a separate thing. Like, it makes its case as a new addition to
Yeah.
an already packed field
Yeah.
of holiday classics. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Klaus is going to have some real legs.
Everyone I've talked to have seen it. It's like, oh yeah, this movie made me bawl.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I don't know about children, but adults love it.
I don't care about them.
Dick, it might be time
Whoa, already? Is it time?
to final
Cut
the
Final
ribbons
do the-
on the holly.
It's time for the final cut.
Hey!
Final cut is, of course, a segment where we do some more lightning round versions of this freeform.
That's what the intent is, but usually this is around a third of our episode.
It's very slow lightning. It's very slow, like lightning.
So our first segment of the final cut is
Yeah.
called Scene Shout Out,
Ooh.
where we shout out a scene from each movie. Dick,
Okay.
do you have a scene in mind for either movie?
Pick one and I'll go.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay. Yes, there is a. So we talked about, we kind of want Nightmare Before Christmas to go, or maybe we talked about this off air, but we kind of want Nightmare Before Christmas to go farther one way or the other. I kind of want it to be either more of a sweet Christmas movie, like 10%, 20% more sweet Christmas movie, or 10-20% more dark,
Weird, twisted.
twisted Christmas movie. And I think I would prefer it to go more in the dark direction,
Because why not?
because like you've got that fun fish out of water thing
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, I'm a skeleton man. That
advantage
scares
of-
people.
yeah.
I'm trying to do Christmas. I'm not getting it right. And I think the scene that does that best is when Jack is delivering presents, and it just like, it cuts away to just like this kid, and the kid is holding a present, and his mom and dad come downstairs. They're like, what did Santa bring you? And he pulls out like a shrunken, severed head.
Ghoul head.
And it's, oh my God, it's so good.
And like his face is quivering, and then
His
there's like a
parents,
pause.
like, faint.
And the scream and the faint. Yeah.
It is like just the right amount of like, this is dark and hilarious.
Yeah.
And I laughed out loud, and I've seen it a bunch of times. And I think I even said, I'm like, that there's no way that's not in the trailer, right? Like that is a great scene. And I think that scene encompasses more of what I want this movie to be.
Yeah.
So, that's my scene shout out for
Yeah.
Nightmare.
since we already talked about both. What's This is probably my favorite scene in the movie. Musically speaking, and like it's fascinating to me that Jack Skellington is so expressive and he does not have eyeballs. He has no pupils, irises. So, I mean, it's done basically through like eyebrow type motions with his like sockets, eyebrow and eyelid. But that's the scene where I noticed that. I'm like, oh, I can tell he's like joyful and surprised. But how do I, like, he doesn't have eyes. Like, that's where I noticed it. That I'm like,
that's interesting.
You're doing really cool things. And there's a little bit of Bunsen honeydew effect where like the shadows in his sockets create a little bit of like a concentric circle.
They give you a little bit of eye
thing, but it's really fun to see a lot of emotions on him.
That's so neat. I never realized.
So I guess that's my scene shout out is Jack Skellington's non-eyes.
Okay, that's a scene.
But in What's This?
The musical number of What's This
is
your scene.
Because I'm gonna go with that. I was gonna go with another one, and now I'm deciding.
That's great. Nice. Do you have one in mind for Klaus?
Yeah, there's a kind of montage where the lore of Klaus kind of starts to snowball in the village. And it's not only the kids writing to Santa, it's them realizing that they have to be on a nice list. Mm-hmm. And then they start to do the good deeds. And it's a whole montage where like it's directed really well, where you're seeing them like fix a fence together with the other clan of kids. And then you're seeing, a kid narrate his like, I fixed a fence today, Santa. I did a really good job. And then you see the adults getting in on it where like that's the real turn. Like, and it made me cry. Like, it's very similar to if you watch the show The Good Place, this idea that like even if you start doing good deeds for kind of an external reward reason, it ends up snowballing and you eventually just do the good deeds because it's nice and you feel good and it makes your community and world better. Yeah. And just this one scene shows that so well, and it's what the whole movie is about. But this montage was just very, very touching and very, I don't know what exactly I expected, knowing going in that this was essentially like a Santa origin story. I knew that there were going to be some heartstrings, but they did it in a way that was unexpected enough and yet predictable enough that it just hit the right place.
That scene also has like one of my favorite like visual jokes where a kid like one of the kids picks a bunch of berries for a different adult. Like it's the Elling bees and the anyway,
that's better than
Elling
the two
bows
clans
and something else.
The Crumps or
it's these two warring factions. So one kid from one faction picks berries and delivers them to a house of the other faction. And so then the parent of a kid,
this is a good
like comes over and like she takes those berries and she makes a pie and then gives it like back. But as like revenge, as like angry.
Yeah, she's at the door like, take this pie. Like is the expression on her face.
How dare you pick berries for me?
Yeah.
Here's a pie back. I don't owe you anything. You owe me something now. And like that goes back and forth a couple of times. And it's really funny. And it's like told completely visually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie does that really well.
Yeah.
In general. Yeah. Thanks for expanding on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have an additional scene shout out besides the berries?
Yeah. I do.
We did see this movie a while ago.
Oh, like 2 weeks ago.
I think it might have been a week ago, but we've just watched so many things that it feels like years.
So, yeah, I guess my scene shout out will be it's okay. So there's a point. Nope, I don't know.
So
I
some berries, maybe.
I really like this movie. I like that berry bit. I like the problem is I'm like, I think I'm mushing some scenes together.
Yeah.
I remember, the reindeer flying, like you said, was great.
Yeah.
I guess just there's like a chase scene at the end. Mm-hmm. There's like an action scene, and it's just really well done. It's really easy to follow, and it's a lot of fun. So just that. I think it's really easy to get carried away with the power of animation and make an action scene that is really ridiculous and doesn't necessarily follow the rules of an action scene, which I think is important for your audience to know what's going on. And I think Klaus does it really well.
Nice.
So there you go.
Nice. Yeah.
Yep.
And that action scene also ends with a little bit of a Grinch reference, and that the sleigh is like on this precipice of a cliff.
That's true.
So I mean, it's a pretty obvious reference, and like there's no hiding that the most famous one of that is from How the Grinch Stole Christmas, but it's done in a way that
Speaking
works.
of famous, can I just take a moment?
Yeah.
I have talked your ear off about this, but Kate,
Are we talking about Greg Proops again? Do you want to talk about Greg Proops again?
No, I'm just talking about look, you know Dasher, right? You're familiar with Dasher.
All right.
And Donner and Comet and Cupid. You know all of these reindeer. But, Kate, do you know the most famous reindeer?
No, I know all the reindeer, but the most famous one.
Oh, so the most famous reindeer you don't know, but you know all the less famous reindeer.
It's a lyric in that song that does not make sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dick. This is just your hill to die on forever and ever.
Okay.
Like me saying, the Peanuts characters are no fun, and they never have been, and they never will be.
Kate, you know, of course, Clarabelle Cow and Horace Horsecollar, but have you heard of Mickey Mouse?
I've heard of him a lot in the last 36 days.
That's true.
All right, so let's move on to, speaking of the most famous, what about, Dick, you know Sally and Oogie Boogie and Jesper
Where's
and
this going?
Alva. Can you recall the most valuable player of all?
Yes.
MVP time.
All right.
Who's the most valuable figure, character, concept in discussing these three movies that you think needs to be shouted out?
I've got two.
All right.
Number one, sort of an honorary mention, is the little kid in Klaus that just stares at Jesper while doing things. She, at the beginning, stares at him while, like, stabbing a snowman.
Oh, yeah,
and
she's,
then,
like, got a carrot gag. Like
yeah,
a carrot
and then at the
gag
end,
through the
she,
whole
like,
thing.
stares at him while putting in the carrot correctly.
Yeah.
But it's just, like, a very creepy stare. It's very fun.
She actually reminded me of like a Tim Burton character.
Yeah.
Some of the visual designs, especially of the town people, will very like smooth Burton would be how I describe them.
Yeah.
And I know that Burton wasn't as involved with Nightmare Before Christmas as some people believe.
Yeah, well, he didn't direct it.
He didn't direct it, and apparently, like, according to the director, he was there like 5 times in 2 years.
Like he produced it.
He produced it, and they put his name on it because they were trying to market it. Essentially, they released it under Touchstone, not under Disney, because they thought, they're like, this doesn't match what we're doing on the children's side right now.
Yeah.
Let's release it as like, it's animated, but it's more for adults, and then attaching Burton's name on it, especially with Beetlejuice and Scissorhands and Batman. It was a good marketing move.
Tim Burton, who Disney fired for being too weird.
For being too creepy. For being Tim Burton.
Yeah. Because he made the Frankenweenie short, which is like a 10, 15-minute short. It's basically a short version of the movie Frankenstein, but with a dog. Mm-hmm. It's really fun. And then it was made into like a full-length animated movie. I don't care. But yeah, so they fired him because they were like, this is too weird. We were supposed to release this with like something else at the time. It was like supposed to be before Little Mermaid or something, right? Like it was supposed to be before
Frankenweenie? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
It was supposed to be before a more traditional Disney movie.
More Roger Rabbit, yeah.
And they were like, "Oh no, this is weird. Go away."
Yeah.
And then they hired him back.
We will fire you
to do more. Yeah.
Yeah. I am going to.
Hold up.
So your MVP is
that little
not
girl
the little
is,
girl.
That little
Okay.
girl is like my runner-up.
Runner-up.
I am going to give my MVP to J.K. Simmons.
Ooh.
Because he plays Klaus in this movie, and he does a really good job of not doing the J.K. Simmons thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of times he's cast to just do the J.K. Simmons thing.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And like he just gives a really, really nuanced, really emotional performance that makes me super invested in the character.
Yeah.
So J.K. Simmons is my MVP.
Yeah, and the way his character unfolds from like, nope, I'm not talking to you. I'm just doing like, I'm delivering this one toy. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm delivering these 5 toys. That's it. And the way he unfolds, both in the amount of dialogue that he speaks and the warmth with which he delivers it. Yeah. I am going to maybe give. Okay, this is just first response, free association. First response is the best response.
Bloop, bloop, bloop.
I'm going to give my MVP to Dr. Seuss. You could do that.
Oh my god!
It's kind of like a Rodgers and Hammerstein award that like he starts this trend. So we've talked about the Grinch a lot in this episode that we didn't talk about. There is an animated Grinch movie.
Yeah,
we're not gonna watch it.
That's not this episode.
That's not this episode, but we mentioned it in the way that like Nightmare Before Christmas subverts the Christmas thing, and it's this person who doesn't understand Christmas. And I think both in, that one scene with the sleigh over the cliff, but also in like, I feel like I see how the Grinch stole Christmas in the little like the origin of coal in a stocking and these little things that are just like, oh, that's a cute button. Where like it kind of reminds me of the Grinch's like stealing toys scene where like just this little Rube Goldberg machine happens and all of a sudden he's got the whole garland of the tree. And it's just these really clever ways of doing really simple things that don't need to be in the movie, but like it's like a Christmas tree ornaments. Like they don't need to be there, but if you hang them the right way, they really add more than you think they would.
Yeah.
So I'm going to shout out Dr. Seuss for inspiring and providing kind of a baseline for a Christmas story that is original.
Yeah.
That is not just fleshing out some carol that already exists.
And I would argue that neither of these movies would exist without the Grinch.
Yeah, that's I guess mostly what I'm saying.
Like very strong influences in both. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
This one's for Seuss.
Cool.
Dick, do you have a crossover idea between these two movies? Of any kind or nature?
Not yet. Do you?
I would like to. I think the Nightmare Before Christmas, in addition to a lot of things that I might change about it, needs a little bit of an anchor of like, this is what Christmas is, even if it's not a character who knows what Christmas is. So I take the little Sami girl, that's the tribe, the Finnish tribe. I take the little blonde-haired, the Nordic girl. I put her in, like, a lot of characters will have to be taken out of Nightmare Before Christmas. And I think Sally is supposed to kind of be the emotional heart, but it's not well executed. So I put her in Nightmare Before Christmas as like a, let's get back to basics. This is what Christmas is. This is what the idea is.
I would like to see her like just pop out of Christmas Land into Halloween Town, and Jack has to deal with like trying to take care of her.
Monsters Inc. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
I'm in.
All right.
That's great. Wow.
Sequel.
Yeah.
It's a crossover sequel to Monsters Inc. and Nightmare Before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm watching it.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so my crossover is, let's take Klaus. Mm-hmm. Let's switch. Let's do Santa swap. Santa swap. So you get like this ultra serious, terrifying giant Klaus in Nightmare Before Christmas.
He would not look out of place.
And then you've got dopey Santa with his big old butt in his tiny widow wigs in Klaus. I don't know what the advantage is. I
think Nightmare Before Christmas gets the advantage there.
Yeah.
Of it improves that movie, but you kind of get a
Santa
flat Santa in the other one.
Santa from Nightmare would like just get his ass kicked in Smearensburg.
Yeah, although he's like pretty, like he's tough at the end where he's like, "You stop stealing Christmas, peace out." Like, don't you ever do this again, you dummy.
Yeah,
I like that part.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Santa swap.
Yeah.
Dick, we are ready for our final cut. Yes.
Wow.
Which is, we take each of these movies one at a time. We decide whether to re-release it in 2019, almost 2020, whether we special edition it in some way, so either altering the movie or changing its medium.
Yeah.
Or do we vault it, never to be seen or heard from again?
Okay.
What do we do with, start chronologically, Nightmare Before Christmas?
So, for Nightmare Before Christmas, it definitely doesn't get vaulted. I definitely don't turn it into an overlay for the Haunted Mansion that starts in October. Boy, what do I do with this? Like, it's pretty prime for a re-release. I think there is a charm, and we've talked about this a little bit. No one is really a singer in this movie. Catherine O'Hara's got some pipes, but I don't think she's singing notes.
Ken Page.
Yeah.
Who's
Okay.
Oogie
Yes.
Boogie.
Yeah. Ken Page is Oogie Boogie. Great singer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Catherine O'Hara is singing notes I don't think are great for her.
They're not in her range, no.
And Danny Elfman is doing his best audition for Phantom of the Opera.
But wait.
Yeah. They're not all singers, and Danny Elfman is definitely not an actor either.
It's neat to hear him interpret his own music.
Yes, it is.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's neat to hear Alan Menken interpret his own music.
Sure.
But not in the movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if I was going to do anything, I would like beef up this cast and like get some stronger singing voices, especially for Jack Skellington. Because it's not just singing ability, but the ability to act what you're singing.
Well, and to leverage the musical notes that you are singing into your acting.
Yeah.
Which I think, because I feel like these performers do hit the emotional notes, which is most important.
Yeah.
But they could be, this is good music, they could be leveraging the vocal part to even more nail the emotion. And yeah, I think that's what you're speaking to.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I would do. Yeah. How about you?
Who would you cast as Jack Skellington?
Ooh.
Dream cast of a dub.
Who do I cast as Jack Skellington? Well, we want like kind of a similar vibe, right?
Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here.
No,
I just came up with the question now. I'm like, ooh, this is fun.
So I would put Adam Pascal as anything.
Okay.
So I'd put him as Jack Skellington.
Okay.
He doesn't. It's not the same voice at all, but I like him a lot.
Yeah.
So I'd put him in there. Alternatively, you can't see his face, so you can't tell that he's smiling the entire time. But I could see like a Norm Lewis.
Norm
Lewis, the smiliest Sweeney Todd I've ever seen.
So smiley.
He was so happy. He was like, "Look, guys, I'm Sweeney Todd." Amazing singer.
Hack,
bad
blood.
Bad at not being happy.
Bad at not being. Well, he did a good job as Caiaphas.
He did a great job
In NBC's Jesus Christ Superstar.
That's
he
right.
did such a good job not smiling.
That's right.
So proud of him.
Until the end. And
Until
then he was
until the curtain call.
Yeah. So those are, I don't know. Those are my
Yeah, because you would need someone who can do that kind of like younger. I guess he's not really a young character, but you need the vulnerability and you need him to be able to do like the Pumpkin King kind of thing.
Maybe Patrick Page.
Yeah, but then I actually don't have an answer to my own question. Yeah.
Good thing you asked.
Well,
Kate,
it's
who would
interesting
you cast?
You know what? Okay, no. I think in like 10 years, I think Jonathan Groff could do a good job. I do. You roll your eyes.
I do roll my eyes.
But I think he would do a really good job.
You like Jonathan Groff way more
He surprises me with different roles, right?
Yeah.
Like Melchior in Spring Awakening is like, oh, okay, I don't care. And then he does King George, and you're like, what? That was there too?
Yeah.
He could do a lot of things.
All right.
And we know he can do a weird voice because he sings as a reindeer sometimes. So
What about your boy?
What about Norbert? Norbert would be like the mayor or something.
Yeah. Oh, Norbert Leo Bus would be a good mayor.
He would be really good.
Oh.
Yeah. Cool. So Nightmare Before Christmas, definitely a special edition. There's not a reason, I don't think, to remake this movie. There's been talk of like a sequel or a live action remake, and that just seems to, Dick.
Kate, have you seen the walk around characters from this movie at Disney World or Disneyland?
I hope I haven't seen the most recent incarnation, because I have seen a Jack Skellington that just looks monstrous.
It doesn't look like Jack Skellington.
Not in a Halloween monster type of way. It's like a weird. It reminds me of like when Disneyland opened in 1950s, and like they did all the dwarfs, but they didn't have mascot helmet technology.
Mickey Mouse's head was
everyone's
like weirdly
head is
thin.
shaped wrong.
Oh.
And like Jack Skellington is just a circle. I don't know how but somehow they get it terribly wrong.
They like put a prosthetic on the dude's face. It's so weird.
It's horrifying.
So live action would be would be bad.
I mean, I don't know how you like. It's so stylistically unique and iconic that.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm gonna propose. Video games now are a lot more like complex and nuanced than they used to be. So I think this could be like a first player, or not what do you call it?
First person?
First person video game. You are Jack Skellington.
I am.
Your missions, though, change on each level. Because first you're like, okay, I need to scare. Like, it's Halloween, I need to scare. That's level 1. Second level, you're like, uh-oh, this is no longer giving me joy. I need to find, like, your second level is like finding the Christmas door.
Yeah.
Your third level is like figuring out what to bring back from Christmas Town. Your fourth level is making Christmas. So, but like at near the end, you realize like, oh shit, like I am now the villain of this story. So that like you learn that lesson firsthand.
So like the gameplay is changing as it goes to you are more taking on the role of like the bad guy.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you can choose whether to like keep hanging on to this, no, I will do Christmas, or give up and be like, oh, I mangled this really badly. I need to fix, like I need to atone.
Yeah.
And hopefully the players would choose that. But that's, there's I don't know what the song's called because there are like 40 songs in this movie, but the song where Jack has been basically defeated from delivering Christmas.
Lying in the arms of an angel.
Of an angel in like a crucifix type position.
It's like, what is the... You guys have symbolism. And you don't know what you're doing with symbolism.
This song structure is all over the place. He's like, I think it's supposed to kind of like be like a manic, depressed kind of like back and forth.
It's so wandering.
But it goes on like 6 more back and forths than it should. And he determines that he's mucked up Christmas. But then his takeaway is not, I shouldn't have stolen this in the first place. His takeaway is this, and it's meant to, I think, be triumphant that he like gets his mojo back as the Pumpkin King. He's like, oh, this was a mistake in the first place for me personally.
Yeah.
I'm the Pumpkin King. Ta-da. But it reads like, it essentially reads like a white cis male taking the wrong lesson out of like a really eye-opening experience where it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have stolen this country's music or holiday. Shoot, I'm a terrible person. It's like, well, I guess I learned my lesson and now I'm better for it. And that's the only thing I'm taking away from this.
And the lesson is that I'm great at Halloween.
I am great as I am. I'm the best person.
Yeah.
And to me, with my perspective in 2019, it reads very much like, oh, Jack has become the villain now. But then he like saves Santa from Oogie Boogie. Like the movie has no awareness that Jack is acting very villainously.
I want this ending
atrociously.
I want this ending where Jack is a villain. I want this movie.
I think it would be really cool. So video game, maybe like a VR experience. Oh. I don't know, but I think you could add a lot of interesting layers to it.
Okay, what do you do with Klaus?
I re-release it.
Yeah. This
is so good. I'm glad that it was in theaters, and I'm kind of, I don't think it's still in theaters. I think it was a very limited run, but like, this is a movie that I just saw it in the last week. I would go to it in theaters in the next week or two.
Yeah.
Because it's so beautiful, and it's warming, and it's funny. Yeah. I laughed out loud a bunch. I'm very excited for this movie to hopefully become a holiday classic throughout the years. What about you, Dick?
So I'm going to do a special edition, and I'm going to reskin the Minions ride for like the holidays. No, I think it's really solid. I could release it as is. Quick shout out to Norm Macdonald, who we didn't mention.
Oh,
who's really,
yeah.
really great in this whole thing.
He's like just Norm Macdonald as an animated character.
He's used exactly perfectly.
He's there to give the main character shit as he sets forth on his life in this new Smearensburg.
I guess like if I was gonna do a special edition, it's just a re-release. It's great.
Yeah.
There's a pop song in this movie, and I don't mind.
Yeah, I don't honestly, like when movies do that, but yeah, it's fine.
I don't mind it. It's fine. Yeah.
Cool.
Hey, great. For Cellmates Podcast. Oh, wait, let's do a little wrap-up first.
For Cellmates Podcast, we would like to thank you listeners for being here, for always giving us great ideas. We have, like, more recommendations than we kind of know what to do with at this point.
And keep on
sending them. No, seriously, it's great, because we had a friend of the podcast, Britt, bring up Nightmare Before Christmas, and she mentioned a couple really awesome pairings that we might do in future years. And then Klaus came up, but she put Nightmare Before Christmas on our radar of like, oh yeah, it will be December.
Like, we do need to watch it, yeah.
But yeah, we're so grateful. So if you would like to give us any pairings, or like, I would just love to hear you talk about this movie, find a pairing for it. We are Cellmates Podcast on Twitter, on Facebook, at gmail.com, regular.com, and we're on a whole slew of listening apps. So if you're telling your friends about us, we're all over the place.
Yeah, and of course, rate and review. We always appreciate it. Helps us climb the rankings and be seen.
Yeah. Beat the algorithm.
Yeah, gotta beat that algorithm. So hey,
cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to a delirious Noel.
Yeah.
That's all.
Is our next episode next year?
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year next episode.
Happy New Year next episode.
Happy New Year's Eve this episode. I guess.
Okay.
Okay, for Cellmates Podcast, I was Dick Ward.
I'm Kate Phillips.
Bye.